My name is Gurinder Chadha. I am a filmmaker, writer, director, producer. When Kaleem Aftab invited me to the Red Sea Film Festival, initially I was like, Saudi Arabia, I've never been here. But I immediately felt that since there's a lot of change happening, that I wanted to come and see for myself and see and meet Saudi women. That was my priority, which is why I've come. And I said to Kaleem, I'm very happy for you to do an 20th anniversary screening of Bend It, like Beckham. But what I really want to do is a talk or a workshop or masterclass or something where I can meet local women and people who are aspiring writers or directors, filmmakers. And that's exactly what I did. And I was delighted because I managed to do a fantastic talk where lots of women came, and I managed to meet three writers from Saudi Arabia who all came up to me after and said how much they wanted to do films like I make, about Saudi Arabia, but for a global audience. Now that to me is a real result and the reason why someone like me should come to festivals like the Red Sea Film Festival. Well, my films, a lot of them are based on being second generation Asian in Britain. So I love to explore that space where one generation has certain ideas and another generation has other ideas, and they're kind of trying to figure out their identities and meld and change while still holding on to traditions, but at the same time moving forward with their country, of birth. And so here that change is happening in front of our eyes, and very fast. Because when I was growing up, you didn't have the internet, and you didn't have social media, and so change was at a slower pace, and that's what I depicted in Bend It Like Beckham, But here, those changes are happening, and so I think it's a very interesting space for local filmmakers to explore those transitions as they go from a very traditional country to a modern country, but at the same time still wanting to hold on to certain traditions, but also embrace, what's good about modernity. Now, having said that, one of the things I've really enjoyed being here in Jeddah is just walking around and seeing how local people live. And it's extremely family orientated. That's what I've seen. And everywhere I go, particularly in the evening, is families, big groups of families all sitting together, on chairs by the sea or in restaurants, or you'll see groups of like 20 women all going out for lunch or dinner in restaurants. Um, it it's all based around the family, and I think that's beautiful, in some ways. I mean, that's what I crave for my children, to have those kind of environments with my cousins and my aunts and uncles, and I love that kind of gathering. For me, um, I guess with the idea now that women are, have more freedoms, let's hope that continues. Mo Al the festival director, he came up to me at the Women in Cinema dinner, and he said, I need to ask you something. I said, okay. And he said, I have this story and I've been pitching it. And everyone I pitch it to, they say, that sounds like Bend It Like Beckham. It's said here, but it does sound like Bend It Like Beckham. It's a story he's come up with about females and sports, not football. And he said, but it's very close to your film. I said, yeah, okay, it is. But I like it. It's different. In the Saudi context, it's different. So I said to him, look, if we can find a writer, I'm happy to work with a writer and help shape this story, because I think it's a great story. And that's why yesterday I put the shout out in my talk and found a writer. She was in the audience, and I'm meeting her later today. And we're going to explore this idea. And this is the beauty of film festivals. You just got to be open to anything, and you never know what happens. I missed during my talk, Michael Usman was doing his talk on Batman. So I missed his talk, but I was walking past at the end, and I went in and said hi to him, told him who I was and what I was doing in that space. And he said, "Oh my God, I need to talk to you. Let's go and have a coffee." So I ended up having a great meeting with him straight after. And now we're talking about, doing various things together. So this is what's great about attending film festivals and also the Red Sea Film Festival, because it's not huge. You're able to kind of meet people and network just like I did yesterday. Sean Bailey got in touch, and I had met him about something else, and I know he really liked how I spoke about this genre. And he approached me and said, "The time has come for us to do an Indian Disney princess movie, and you're the person to do it." And I said, "Hell yeah, that's me." I want to go where the people are, like. So we started chatting, and Lindy Goldstein, who did Nutcracker for them, is the producer as well. And we started chatting, and I love her because she knows how to do it. And let me tell you, it is not easy writing a Disney princess movie. It's a very hard thing to do because there are certain rules that you have to follow, and you also don't want to repeat yourself. I mean, I don't want to make Mulan again, for example. I want to do my own thing, but at the same time, there are very strong Disney princesses out there. So to do something different but still within the genre, it's an interesting balance to explore, as a creator. But we're doing that, and Jess Virtue we're working with as well at Disney, and together all of us are really shaping this story, which I hope, once we've got to a good stage, we'll be able to share with everybody. We're at the script writing stage. We've been talking about songs as well. We've met a lyricist we really like, and it's full steam ahead. I mean, it's got a great shape. It's a great story. It's got a proper 3-act structure. I'm working with Netflix on another project that Jeff Kirschenbaum's producing, based on ancient Greek mythology, a particular character. And Paul, my husband, and I, we sort of took a script that Jeff had sent us and reworked it from a feminist perspective. And so that's in the works over at Netflix. And a few other projects I'm working on as well right now, that I'm very excited about. I'm working on a music-based film with John Levin and Alex Milchan and Irvin Winkler, and that's gonna hopefully happen as well. So I've got quite a few things out there. Very excited. I've got sent a very, very funny comedy by Kevin Kwan that Lawrence Bender's producing. Really funny. Absolutely laugh out loud. So I've come on board that one and helped them shape it a little bit. I've done a pass on these scripts. Everything I've worked on, I've kind of tried to bring my own sort of heart to and perspective. So I like to do a pass, but let's see. A lot of the game these days is casting, isn't it? So it depends on getting the right cast. So filmmaking is part creativity and 100% hustle, really, isn't it? Particularly in the independent world. So you have to it's a horse race. You just have to keep pushing your projects. And luckily for me, I love the development process. During lockdown, there was nothing better for me than escaping into different worlds. Ancient Greece, ancient China, modern London, uh, California, Virginia, all these different places I would escape to for the scripts that I was working on. Africa, South Africa, for fantastic projects set in South Africa as well that I'm doing with Helena Spring, a great producer from South Africa. And that's a great political story. So I say yes to things that I think will inspire other people. That's what I like. If I read something that I feel is inspiring and changes the needle in some way when it comes to prejudice or diversity, and challenges racism and sexism and all that, then I'll sign on to it and make it more. You know, that's what I like to do. But ultimately, I'm always driven by emotion, and if I feel emotional about the characters and the story, and I feel there's enough there for me to kind of really up the emotion more and make an audience uh, feel connected to the story without it being really cheesy, that's always my goal. Well, I have certainly honed my hustler skills over the years, and I've been in meetings, particularly in the early part of my career, where I've had to really fight. And I always say 50% of the audience is women. Don't just cater for the other half. I'm going to cater for the other half. And my protagonists are generally always women, or have been, from when I started. And that's an amazing statistic. 50% of the audience is my audience. But then I go further than that and say, but I have a global audience. And I've been pushing international from day one. It's only just now become a thing where studios are going, oh, hold on, the international audience is bigger than domestic. And I was saying that 25 years ago. And that's why I've been lucky enough to have such a global audience, as well as sort of women around the world. And it's very heartening for me because people come up to me and they're very emotional often, because I've been there through their childhood, or I've helped them, empower them, I guess. And one of the things I'm really happy about is that the US female soccer team, they all did interviews saying they only got into playing soccer after watching Bend It Like Beckham. And the same with the Lionesses in England. So it is a film that has launched champions, and I could never have thought that when I first started trying to get films financed. It took me 3 years to get Bend It financed. No one was interested. No, everyone was like, no one wants to see a film about an Indian girl who can bend a ball like David Beckham. And in fact, when I went to the States, no one knew who David Beckham was. And I remember doing interviews. I remember doing an interview with the Washington Post, and the guy kept saying, well, who is Beckman? And I said, no, it's Beckham. He goes, no, Beckman. Why Beckman? And in fact, Fox Searchlight actually wanted to change the title of the film because they said, no one knows who he is here. It's a bad title. And so we had to fight. And of course, now Beckham's a household name with LA Galaxy and everything. So it's amazing, the power of cinema. And I guess what I've learned is that you have to be clever and find ways to reach your audience, but also tell your stories in a way that aren't always what people think they are. Because for every film I've had to hustle and get made, there's always people going, no, we don't think it'll work. And then when I make it, they go, oh, yeah, it does work. And, this case in point, Blinded by the Light. I thought that was a really commercial movie because of Bruce Springsteen. But, a lot of people passed on that movie because they just didn't think, a kid from Luton liking Bruce was a way to tell that story. And then, of course, we made it and had an amazing bidding war at Sundance and sold the movie for 17 million, which was amazing. Every filmmaker should have that one experience of a bidding war. It was amazing, an amazing night. And now that film, lots of men come up to me now. Just recently, I was in Qatar for the World Cup, and a man came up to me and was almost in tears and said how much the film had touched him. And he wrote me a little message, which I put on my social media because I was so touched by his note, And so I think that the great thing for me, looking back, is seeing that I have touched people And as a filmmaker, that's all you can do. I think everyone brings to the table what they know. And I think sometimes in order to tell our stories, you need forward thinking, brave people to say, this is a material that I don't know about, but I trust her. So I'm going to go for it. That's where we need to get to, I think. Is the gatekeepers need to go, okay, I might not know about this. This is not my worldview, but I'm going to trust this filmmaker to deliver. As a filmmaker, I'd say I trust myself more and my audience more. I don't doubt myself. Before, I might have doubted myself because the gatekeepers doubted me. But now I'm much more vociferous in saying, I know this is a great story and I know how to tell it. And there are films that I see get made and they don't work for whatever reason. And I'm always the first person to say, I should have made that film. I know how to make that film and I know how I could have made it to make it work. And I often go up to people after and say, so do you want my notes? This is what I that's not a cool thing for some people, but I guess I'm just much more confident, I guess, 20 years on, in being able to tell the story that I want to tell from my perspective. I mean, I think one of the highlights of my career was after Blinded by the Light was showing the film to Bruce Springsteen, because I had to show it to him first before I showed it to anyone else. And before I locked it, because if there was anything that he was unsure about or didn't approve of, I wanted to change it. He never asked for that, but I made that film for Bruce Springsteen initially. And so I needed to know that he was happy with what I'd done with his lifetime's work. And in the screening, it was nerve-wracking for me, but after the screening, I was going to leave and let him discuss the film with John Landau and everything. But as I went towards the door, he stopped me and put his arm around me and gave me a kiss here and whispered in my ear, "Thank you for looking after me so beautifully." And I melted, and I was like, well, I didn't know what to say, I was just overwhelmed. But I put my heart and soul into that film, and the way I interwove his music with the story of Safraz Manzoor, young Pakistani kid from Luton, dealing with racism and all kinds of stuff, and then marrying it with Bruce, that is a film that only I could make. No one else could make that film the way I made it, because Britain in the 80s was close to me. Bruce Springsteen is close to me, and the way I marry the two is something only I could do. And I think as a filmmaker, that's the thing I've really learned, is that no one can do what I do, and people can try, but that cultural space of marrying cultures, but also celebrating difference is definitely my hallmark. And that's what I've honed on more and more, and that's what I hope to do. And the Disney Princess movie is a great way to do that on a massive big scale.